Welcome to Healthier, Happier Hour. Wow, I was just going to do my announcer voice there. I'm Kiersten.
I'm Carli.
I have an announcer voice. I'm here. Welcome. We're so glad you're listening.
We're so excited that you're here, and we are here to help you get healthy, connect in your relationships, and enjoy your life.
That's right.
Boom.
And okay, you know what I'm enjoying right now? Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to show you this shirt. It looks pretty good with the way I have it, like with a jean jacket. I have my high-waisted pants on, but I had told my sweet husband that I wanted some more graphic tees with bands on them, things like that. And this is an awesome graphic tee. And
AC/DC, okay.
It is like yay wide. I think he saw it like, or no, length.
Short.
Very short. It is
it's a belly shirt.
It's a crop top on steroids. I was like, I am so shocked you bought this for me. He's like, well, maybe I should take it back.
You're shocked? That was a present for him, Kiersten. Let's be real. He bought it for you, but it was for him.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Well, here we are.
Here we are.
Tees, excited to be here.
Can I tell you about my graphic tee? It says Nashville.
I love that.
Oh, because it's where we met.
That's right. It's awesome. Look at that. Yeah. I love things that have meaning.
I know. Me too.
You know, that's awesome. Love it. Okay, so cool. I am excited and nervous for this episode.
Yikes. Should I be nervous? I feel nervous.
Just me.
Okay.
Just me.
Are you sure?
I'll be nervous.
Okay.
I'm excited to hear what your cheers or tears is. And before that, to get you excited, to get your mind right, we are going to talk about connecting in your relationships and make it specific, though.
Okay.
In your romantic relationships. We're going there.
We're doing it.
Oh boy.
Okay.
In your romantic relationships.
I can't wait.
I know. I'm excited.
Are you ready for it?
See, we do have
where you at, girl? Every time.
I love it.
If we had a DJ, listen. You know, like on talk shows, they have a DJ that just like drops in, fades in the song every time. That could be us.
Here's the deal. Healthier, Happier Hour girls trip. You're all invited listening. Mm-hmm. If you're a female, you're invited. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've welcomed.
It's called girls trip.
It's called girls trip, but you know, whatever. Anyway, you're invited, and on our girls trip, we will definitely have a DJ, an in-house DJ.
100%. Dance party. Let's go. Sign me up, please.
That's awesome. So fun. Okay, let's hear your cheers or tears.
Okay. I've been thinking about this as in within the last 30 seconds.
She's like, I was today, this moment, years old when I been thinking about it.
So, I was exactly 60 seconds ago thinking about this. And I said to you, it's my turn for a cheers or tears. I wonder what I should share.
Right.
And I said to you, it's just been very tearsy recently. No, not in a bad way. It's okay. No, not about it. There's always cheers moments, you know, we can find those, but to be totally transparent, it has been a tearsy 2 weeks. Life has been happening. It just has.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be honest. Like sometimes that's the way that it goes. And I'm not going to try to make it fancy or pretty it up with a cute little bow and say, this is what I'm so proud of. And this is what's so great. Because the reality is in my life currently, for the last 2 weeks, it's been a little tearsy. Life has been happening to us. And I'm proud of myself for certain ways I've handled things. Yes, I can acknowledge that. But I just do want to say that sometimes things are tearsy. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Sometimes life is happening. and that's the way it goes. And just to give a quick little context, we've been dealing with the stomach bug in my household for the last 2 almost and a half weeks.
Oh my
with my
goodness.
kids. And if you know my kids, you know they're almost 5 and 3. And so dealing with kids that age that have the stomach bug who don't really get what's happening and they're up in the middle of the night. And why are kids always sick in the middle of the night? I'm like, it's noon and we're sitting on the couch and nothing's happening. But now it's 3 a.m., 3:30, 3:45, 4 a.m. and we're just sick.
Okay, every time you talk about your kids, not every time, but many times when you talk about your kids, I'm like, oh shoot, I'm like that. It's always worse at night for me too. When I'm sick, always worse at night. Always. Yeah.
Always. I'm telling you, every single time. It's worse at night.
Yeah.
Every single time. And there have been so many sweet little moments like laced throughout the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But overall, I just have to say it's been kind of tearsy over here. And I'm not going to I'm not even going to pull out a cheersy moment. I'm just going to say that's where we've been. That's how things have been going. We're on the tail end of it. So I'm very thankful for that.
Good.
Everybody's healthy.
Yeah.
The tears has just been, everyone's been sick. It's been gross. It's been really gross. And so anyone out there who's been dealing with that too, just know, I feel you. You are not alone. Get some Lysol and some Clorox. And I hope that you have a nice mom beverage this evening too.
There you go. And it won't last forever. So
it will not last forever.
Cheers to it not lasting forever. Just
cheers
in your heart, apparently.
It might be 2 weeks, might be 2.5, but it will not be forever. That is true.
All right.
Definitely true.
So now, can we get to our partners in crime? So,
please,
not you and I, because
I was like, what did we do? What kind of trouble did we get into? What do I not know?
But it's always, I think ooh, I'm excited. I know I need to go there with you. And, having you talk to us about connecting in our romantic relationships with our partner. And just for context, because I think it's always better, there's different parts in every season that are more challenging or not. But the context for my husband and I, we've been married for almost 12 years. Oh my gosh. I can't even believe that. That's insane. So to give some context, but I believe whether you're in a romantic relationship right now or not, you will get nuggets and helpful things when you are in one right now. So buckle up. Let's go. Actually, strap in the roller coaster. I did if you're watching on YouTube, I'm very visual today. It's the over the shoulder, lock it in roller coaster.
We're locked. We're loaded. Let's go.
Let's do it. Okay.
I can't wait.
So I want to start by asking you kind of give us some time that inspired you either from a experience or maybe a certification or some kind of training or just your temperament, your, personality. What got you interested in wanting to help people connect in their relationships?
Such a good question. It actually is none of those things.
What is it then?
I know. I just have always loved relationships and people. I think everybody has certain ways that they're just attuned to, they're just naturally adept at certain things and they have certain interests. And some of those are, I believe God-given. Some of those also come about from our lives as well. Right. I come from, I don't know if you even know all these details, but I come from a very complicated, love my family, but very complicated family history where there's just a lot of disconnection, a lot of fractured relationships. And that really, for me, was like, I think the heart of it. Like, I didn't see much connection in my relationships growing up, in my parents' relationships. Both of my parents are divorced, love them both. They're both remarried, which is wonderful. I love my family. I love my parents dearly. I'm not speaking ill of them in any way, but I just saw like the hurts that could come from those different relationships and the way that things play out in certain instances. And so, for me, that really just gave me this passion, this desire to want to create that for myself and to want to help other people create that for themselves as well, because that was something that I saw throughout the duration of my life that was missing, even into adulthood, not seeing a consistent really example of that or a longevity of that. Like, that was something I always craved, was kind of, just a stable relationship that was thriving and just healthy and connected. And I did see instances of that. I'm not at all saying that I didn't have instances of that or have that in my parents, but that really just sparked this kind of curiosity and this desire and this longing and this want to create that for myself, to know what it took to have that. And then also as a coach, I really wanted to be able to help provide that, right? So like help give my clients who were wanting that as well, like, here are the tools, here are the strategies, here are the things that you need to make that part of your life as well, if that's where you're struggling. So it kind of came just from the lack, you could say, in my own life.
And you wanted something different, maybe. Was that part of it too? And
for sure.
Set you down this path, and then you were, great at it. And it, we talked about last episode about having enough why behind it to get you through the hard stuff and get you through the challenge and get you through the things to, keep you in the game of being a coach and being able to coach on these things. So when you were just talking right now, something came up, and it hasn't really occurred to me in this way until right now. So it's interesting, but I'm curious because I've noticed myself, like, I also love people, and I love, the psychology piece, but then also the sociology piece, like the way people interact and all that. And when I think about just different getting to know couples, partnerships, and romantic relationships, I'm just being very vulnerable here. And like you said, nothing against any of this. I'm just wondering, once I really felt like I really got to know a couple in a romantic relationship, there were at least pieces and maybe the whole package that I was like, oop, nope, wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
And so how much, and this is maybe a hard question that you're probably not going to be able to answer, but just talk to us about it. How much do you think is like, once we get to know anyone, including a romantic partnership, no one's perfect and no romantic, partnership is perfect. How much of it is like this, like what we're measuring against, like Hollywood romantic comedy, or idealistic. Like, I can also be very idealistic, which can be a huge, good thing, but it also can, when things don't measure up, that can leave me disappointed. So how much do you think is like an expectation thing? How much is it that it's actually healthy and good to say like, oh, wouldn't want that when that type of relationship. So I'm going to build something different. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, no, such a good question. And I think the first piece, like even just to rewind a little bit, some people don't even have that understanding or awareness of like, this is what I want, right? Of like, this is what I want and this is unrealistic versus this is not, right? Like some people just go into things And that's what they're looking for. And so it's certainly a balance of, okay, here are the things that are important to me. These are my values. These are my expectations. These are my, sort of non-negotiables, if you will. Like, these are the things I refuse to settle on, right? Like, for me, to give you some examples, it was like my faith, certain like financial things, certain values that I had that these are things I'm refusing to compromise on. They're just that important to me. They hold that much weight. And the rest of my life, who I am at my core, is built upon that. It's like the foundation of Carli. It's the foundation of me. And that's not going to change. So I can't compromise those things. It's not about like, everything else. Every behavior that a person would have is going to stem from that. Like how you treat me, how you respond to me in conflict, how you, approach my parents, how you, show up. It's all going to come from those kind of core values and those belief systems. So for me, those were the things that were the most important, right? For somebody else, it might be a little bit different. So it is a question of, what are the things that you are willing to let go of? What are the things that are the most important? What are the things that you want to hang on to? And so I think, the question that you're asking, like, how do we determine that, right? It's for everybody, it's a little bit different. And for everybody, the question kind of becomes, what can I look at my life today? And what can I look at my life, 5 years from today, 10 years from today, 20 years from today? What do I want to still be hanging on to, right? Like, what's still going to matter to me in 10 years? For me, my values, my belief systems, my faith, like all of those things are the foundation of me as a person. Like everything else that I do, the way that I speak, the way I treat people, my choices, all of those things are just an extension from that, right? Yeah. So those matter to me. So it's not going to matter to me what kind of job somebody has. It's not going to matter to me what kind of car they drive, where they work, where they live. Yeah. Like those things, to me, they fall much lower on the list. It's more important to me how you're treating people, what you believe, or, how you're talking to the people in your circles. Do you have close friendships? Are you able to share how you feel about things? Yeah. And so it's kind of like pulling back the layers of what is the most important thing to you and getting at the core of what's going to matter, 10 years from now, what's going to matter 20 years from now, what's going to matter 50 years from now. And for everybody, like I said, that's a little bit different, but I think it comes back to kind of those three things, like your values, your belief systems, and, those really two things, I guess. If faith is one of those things, but those align or not, and everything else filters through those.
Yeah. So like kind of honoring, the way I'm like receiving that is honoring who you are at your core and what is going to, I don't know, without sounding morbid, like you want written on your tombstone, like the really, really important things. And everything can kind of be, like you said, filtered, and that's a foundation. Okay. Now we're going to
can I add something?
Yes, go.
Okay. But that's not to say, okay, so that was like, you're right. That was like hitting some heavy stuff, but that's not to say that other things are not important. Okay. Yeah. So I don't want to like miss the fact that like fun is important. Yeah. Or connection is important, or like silliness. Yeah. Like those are all kind of wrapped up into those core things, right? Like you're not going to be with somebody because they have the same core values as you who you just don't enjoy being around.
No. Yeah.
Right. Like those are important things too. But if you're getting at like the heart, like the core, most important, the starting point, that's the starting point. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I would say like for me, I'm an easy read. So I don't want to say I can be tricked, but like people are putting their best foot forward and blah, blah, blah at the beginning of like dating and things like that. And so I am glad that you said some other things and like what I had to learn the hard way. Thank goodness my husband is amazing. Not perfect, Ethan, but amazing. But I had to learn the hard way that I need to, I don't know how to say it without sounding like super woo woo, is like trust the unseen. Like to your point of like fun is important to me, adventure, and just that feeling, that gut feeling. I mean, chemistry will come and go, and I do like chemistry too. And I think you can work on that later in a relationship. But if you never had it, it's going to be hard to, I don't know. That's just my feeling. But like some of those other things, in my opinion, and I'm not as, I don't have as much experience with you, just more like friends. And I love people and just like getting to know all my friends in this area and myself is like, I told Ethan, I mean, this is going to sound harsh, but here it is. Like before I thought he was going to propose to me. And I was like, all right, dude, I don't know if I'm ready. But if, I kept on saying things like that, I was like, I'm just going to say whatever I feel. I'm just going to go with whatever I'm feeling. Like, but that was my way of saying like, gut check or like spirit check. And I try to teach, especially my daughter, including my son. I just think women, it gets conditioned out of us that guess what? You don't have to have 18 reasons. If you don't feel like something's right, get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
You don't need all the reasons. Anyway, that took a little turn. But anyway, I think that's really good. And I want us to fast forward to the people that are like, I'm in a safe romantic relationship and I want to connect with that person in a meaningful way, in a positive way. And, we know it's not all, sunshine and rainbows or whatever the saying is. But I truly believe, like, I don't want my kids to think, like, I've heard some kids say, and I've heard my friends say, and there's been moments where I'm like, maybe I don't want to get married. Like, I want the young people to know that there is hope, that marriage or a long-term committed romantic relationship is something I would choose again, even knowing the hard.
Yeah.
Is I would choose that, and I'm thankful I chose it. But talk to us about how we can connect and how we figure that out as like two different people with different, needs and desires and moods and schedules and holy smokes, throw a kid in there and throw a illness from somebody, a mom over here and a brother over here. And holy smokes, Carli, talk to us about how we can connect with our romantic partner.
Yeah. Yeah. Throw the kids and the illness in there and it really just shakes things up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think first of all, knowing those things, it's so important to just be realistic about it. Depending upon the season that you're in, you have to be realistic and just have true and clear expectations. So like knowing the season of life that you're in, acknowledging that and being aware of it. Like it's okay. The way that my husband and I connect today is completely different than the way that we did before we had kids. Completely different than when we were dating. Completely different. When we were dating, we could just pick up the phone and, hey, what are you doing? Oh, okay, let's go do X, Y, and Z. Same when we were engaged. Totally different when we were first married compared to when we had our daughter, just had one kid. Now we've got two kids. I mean, so you have to know that, and this is going to continue to be true in our lives. Like it's going to continue to evolve. And people older than me and much more seasoned than me are even wiser on this topic than I am. And I'm sure have more to share. But I think that's one huge piece of the puzzle is knowing and just being upfront and transparent with each other about what you're available for, as well as what your needs are. So in order to really connect, like I know for me, it's important to have quality time. Like I need time where we are sitting together, we are talking, we are connecting. I am hearing and having conversation. Like it's every once in a while, sure, it's great for us to sit and watch a show. Sure, great for us to sit and watch a movie, which ends up us both on the couch, like scrolling on our phones while we're watching the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's great once in a while. But for me to truly feel connected and have quality time, I know for myself that I need to be communicating about what's going on. Like I want to know what's happening at work. I want to know, what's happening with this conversation. Tell me about these friends. I want to be able to tell you about what happened at X, Y, and Z. So knowing yourself, knowing what your availability is, knowing and having clear expectations around your life and your season, and also knowing what your partner needs. So it's kind of three things right off the bat. Expectations, having them set and having them clear, and what you're available for, knowing what you need, knowing what your partner needs, and then making a really concerted effort to put those things as a priority, right? Like it's, my husband's, if you're familiar with the love languages, like I'm not sure if you are or not. I know a lot of people are. We read that book when we first got married, and I had read it before, but we read it again together. My husband's love languages.
The 5 love languages, right?
Yeah. So 5 love languages.
Dr. Gary Chapman, who wrote that book, and it's very universal. People talk about it all the time, right? So if you haven't heard about it, the 5 love languages are what?
It's words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch,
acts of service,
and what am I forgetting?
One more.
Quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, gifts is the last one.
Yeah, that's right. Must not be either of our love languages.
I know it's lower on the list.
Yeah, I'm like, I like them all. Thank you.
I would like everything, please. Yeah.
Okay, so you
whether or not you consider it like, I'm quality time.
Yeah.
But whether or not, you're going to classify it through one of those 5 or not, it's important to just have an awareness of yourself, of like knowing how you feel most connected to your partner.
Yeah.
And how they feel most connected to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that could just be as simple as asking, like, what do I need to feel emotionally and physically connected to you? Just asking that question to yourself could be a really great starting point. You don't have to go read the book to figure that out.
Right.
You can just ask that question.
Right.
And you can ask that question to your partner and they could answer that as well.
Yeah.
So for my husband, it's physical touch, and words of affirmation. For me, it's quality time and words of affirmation.
Okay.
And so, we have to both like make a very conscious effort to love the other person and to show up for the other person the way that they feel most loved, right?
Right.
Usually the way that you feel most loved is the way you demonstrate love.
Yeah.
Right. So like he's gonna, come up and give me a hug and like unload the dishwasher for me. And in my mind, I'm like, well, that's great. That's just what you should do. I don't feel more love because you did that. I just feel like that's the nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
I love it.
Being intentional is what I'm getting at. So to answer your question, it comes back to kind of 4 things, which is having really clear awareness, knowing what's possible, and just having very clear expectations and what you're capable of. Right? Like it's not possible for us to go on date nights right now. That's okay. We don't have to do that to connect. Yeah. So having clear expectations, knowing what I need, knowing what he needs, and then being intentional with that. Yeah. So to boil it down, like I would say those are the 4 simple steps that we can build in ways to connect.
Yeah. Right. I'm just thinking about some resistance, like of things we're hearing and listening about. Like one thing that I notice in my own life is, we get in these routines, right? And so I loved your question of asking yourself and asking your partner, what like thinking of a time when that was true, like think about some moments you felt really connected to your partner. That helps me when I feel like stuck on anything. Cause I'm like, I don't know, it all sounds great.
Yeah.
But one thing that I know I struggled with, and I know different friends, who have these same struggles, is when life gets busy and okay, by the time you get your kids to bed, what Ethan and I end up doing. So the answer to the question of what makes me feel connected, at least, is not what we actually do most of the time. Yet in the moment, I feel like doing that. And that is sitting on the couch and watching a show together. And yeah, maybe I'll like lean on him and things like that. But I'm so exhausted and we're just like tired and busy from our day. And Ethan doesn't have that many words to begin with. So I have to be like, okay, I have to be interviewing him to try to get, him talking.
Ethan, are you listening?
He's tired too. So
yeah.
I guess like, what would you suggest when we answer those questions? And I think that's a good one to like do several times, answer those questions several times, and to see what some common threads are and to build an environment around that. Yeah. And so maybe I'm partly answering my question, but what would you say to that specific problem that I just said? You're tired and it takes work.
Yeah.
To choose to connect.
No, so it does. Well, you know what I think is so interesting is how much this connects to a previous episode of Healthier, Happier Hour, which is like you're hitting the resistance, and the resistance is like, we're tired, and the resistance is like, but the ultimate question is like, is it worth it? Like, you kind of have to ask that question.
Depends on the day, Carli.
No. And so like, and I'll share this too, like just vulnerable moment is we had a moment, several months ago when we were like, we just both felt so disconnected, my husband and I, and we were like, we are just go. We have young kids, we're in the thick of it. You have young kids. Our kids are really young. Like when they're awake, they need us every ounce of time. Like every second that they're awake, they need us. And it just can feel really draining. And so by the time they go to bed, we're just like, like a deflated balloon.
Right.
So I am there with you. Like,
right.
Exactly.
We're talking about romantic relationships, and that's part of it, right? I'm just like so exhausted and I don't even feel it as my best.
Yeah. And it feels that way. And so we kind of sat down and just decided like, and I'm not suggesting this is what you do, but this is just like in response to your question. One way to approach it is, I think, just considering like, okay, well, we're left with the choice, right? Like we can choose, kind of to keep doing what we're doing, which is totally okay and fine. Or we can choose to experiment and try some different things. Like what would it look like to maybe do, like a date night in once a week, or to switch up the time of day that we try to connect. If your kids are a little bit older and they are a little bit more independent, maybe that means like, okay, the kids are okay at home for 30 minutes. We could go on a walk together for 30 minutes, during the day. And I don't know. I'm just throwing out different ideas here, but figuring out something in your routine that would allow you, the two of you, to have some time outside of that, normal after bedtime hours. Like for us, that wasn't possible because our kids are young. So we had to just decide, okay, we are tired, but like our marriage is important enough to us. So we're going to have to just like kind of buck up and do it. And so we decided to do like a Tuesday, I've told you this before, like date night in. Yeah. And so we alternate weeks. Yeah. And every other week I'm in charge. Every other week he's in charge. And we just do it at home. Yeah. And one of us plans it all. And it's nothing fancy ever, but we are tired. And it's taken some time to kind of find the rhythm, but it's been really, really good. It's been really nice. So I would say experimenting with like, what are different times? What are different instances? And also allowing yourself some grace to know like some days it's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. It's okay that we're tired. It's okay that today we're just overwhelmed and we just need to lay here and watch a show and not talk.
Right.
But when you're feeling that like, oh, we're disconnected. What's going on? This feels kind of icky. Then lean into that and like push that direction.
Yeah.
But don't be hard on yourself about it. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh. I love that. And I think of so many things like trying it once a week. Cause like my natural brain or natural lean personality is like, okay, we got to change it every night. And we don't. We don't. And I like the idea of experimenting and being creative with the time of day, with little and big ways. Like sometimes an overnight getaway it doesn't take that many of them in a year to make me really filled up.
Yeah.
Like same team. I feel like we're, doing so good when we really give that like intense quality time together and to just adventure and whatever. So I like that. And it reminds me of like two things. That's what's so funny. It's like, we know what we know. And to your point earlier, like little kids and including ourselves, we know what we've seen or seen examples of, right? And so if we want something different, we need to look for examples. Otherwise, we won't even go for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And so in giving ourselves that like feeling, and this is a scary feeling, at least for me, is like, yes, our marriage, our partnership, my health, my like fun factor is important enough to prioritize it. And so like in the last episode, I gave examples because this is my thing, is talking about fitness. And those are the ways that people ask me all the time, fitness and wellness. And so I said, no problem if you start with 10 minutes. No problem if you do like a little taste. That's good. Like, I don't know. And so I'm thinking, and even my cheers in the last episode is like, be creative with making work for you. And so I have one specific question that keeps on coming up for me. And so I want to ask it is like, how often? So like my examples of make work for me is like, I'm very season oriented, right? So like picturing what I actually have going on in my life in different ways that I can be creative. So in our partnerships and our romantic relationships, what do you suggest? How often do you check in with those questions, or like with needs and wants and desires and ways that we're feeling connected or disconnected? And like, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. So, I mean, it's so tough and everybody's a little bit different. Personally, I firmly think that you can't really over communicate, and some people will disagree with me, but I really don't think that you can over communicate. And that probably comes from, like you said, some of the other examples that I've seen. But, I think doing things like having a kind of standing time that just belongs to you and your spouse or you and your partner is really, really important and really special. And it doesn't have to be like a 3-hour time window. Maybe it's 45 minutes, maybe it's 30 minutes where it's like, this is our time to just check in, and it's once a week, and it's just for whatever we need it to be. It doesn't mean that it's like a date necessarily. It could just be like, this is our window of time to check in with each other for whatever we need it to be. Maybe you have a date planned another time during that week. But I would say weekly. And I would hope that would be the least amount of time. So when I'm working with clients, I'm typically encouraging them, if they're working towards building up connection in their relationship, we are usually building up to having things in place like a weekly connection point. And we, kind of call it that. It might be a date night, but we also work up to having like a weekly, kind of like a check-in in terms of like a family meeting, if you will. So we're working up to like 2 check-in points. So I would say at minimum 1, but that doesn't mean that's the only time that you are talking about how you feel or checking in with the other person. But to answer your question briefly, I would say a minimum of 1.
Yeah. And from my experience and stuff, I'm like on board with the like, you can't communicate too much.
No.
Maybe
it's like,
that's just my
that's like to fall back on. That's like if we are so busy and there's no other time, like I know in my head, we have Tuesday night to talk about X, Y, and Z. That's on my heart.
Plan, right? It's an insurance
Exactly.
plan,
Yes.
right? And so when I'm talking to people about, making some improvements in their food, I get a lot of questions about different supplements and different vitamins, and those things can be really good, and talk to your doctor about them. And there's different reasons and all those things, but I want people to think of those as an insurance plan, not as they're
not the plan.
Not the plan. They're not like eat real food.
Yeah.
Like our body wants real food that has nutrients. And I'm getting on a tangent, but and don't be such a robot that you're eating cortisol with your carrots either. Like we need vegetables and we need real food. Our body craves that and can absorb them best in food form. But, we all have different systems and medical histories and things. And even there's been seasons and there's certain things where it's like crazy that I need to take a pill to live. But I would tell anyone until I'm blue in the face that our body does it better. You better believe that, I have no thyroid. And so I need to take thyroid hormone every day. And so, but guess what? Like our body is able to ebb and flow with hormones, even on a daily basis, when I am like purposefully at a certain time in a certain condition, taking a pill. And so absolutely, I'm going to take that pill. But my body was like so amazing. Even when my thyroid was full of cancer, my thyroid was still working because my body's like, I got you, girl. Our bodies are just so incredible. Right? So, whoa. I am so sorry I went there. My ADHD brain was just going for it. I know. Okay, so reel it back, Kiersten. So
reel her in.
Start small. You're saying we can start small. And
start small. Be realistic.
Yeah.
Know what you need, know what your partner needs, and talk about it.
Yeah.
You cannot assume that the other person knows what you need.
Yeah.
Or assume that you know what they need, because even if you think that you do, they might actually want something different than what you're giving to them. So, yes.
And saying this for a friend, but if your partner doesn't answer the first 3 times, you can keep on changing. It still matters that you're asking the question. Like that's meaningful. And it will, it really does. Like communication is just so key. And I think it should be everyone's way of loving each other the only way we can feel and be connected is if we know each other. And the only way we know each other is if we communicate.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I've learned too, just to be like super vulnerable with what I'm terrible at is like, I've learned that's like, oh my gosh, I need to be okay. Or like, I need him to feel I'm good with whatever his answer is, even if I don't like his answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been a growth point for me. And it's just so amazing though, on the other side of that, like those wins, those cheers of when all of a sudden Ethan out of the blue, like shares something with me without me even asking the question. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Right? Like a really important thing. And so that's what I just think do naturally. But like, can you first of all tell us like how you want people to connect with us on this particular issue, and then give us something like really tangible after that we can do, because you just naturally ask questions and make it a safe place and all that stuff. And that's all important. But I think sometimes people get hung up on talking about dumb stuff that doesn't matter to either one of you.
Okay.
So the first question is, how do we want people to connect with us?
Okay. Yes. So 2 ways.
We can only connect if we communicate. Just saying. Okay. So first, make sure that you're following the podcast. Hello, go do that if you're not. Scroll down to the description, find our website. It's healthierhappierhour.com. Go join our list. You can get all the details, connect with us, send us an email, find us on Instagram, Healthier Happier Hour. You can send us a DM, send us messages, let us know what you want us to talk about here. And we will be happy to do that. We'll support you however we can. So many ways to connect with us, just really personally, and work with us. And we will support you and work with you and how we can help you connect in your relationships in our coaching programs. Like that is what we do. One of the ways we support our clients. So we want to do that. We want to support you and walk alongside you. So please, please, please go do that. So that's the first thing. Second thing that you asked was, it's left me. No, it's fine. What to do to actually talk about things that matter to you, or if you have some other like thing that we could do this week.
Okay. Yeah. So I think you phrased this, or you mentioned this earlier. I was going to say, if you're in, a relationship right now, maybe you're feeling a little bit discontent, or even if you're not, you're feeling great in your relationship, I would really encourage you to, one, go and talk to your partner. And if you're feeling great, tell them that. Like say, hey, I'm feeling really good in our relationship. I'm feeling really connected to you. I just want you to know that. Like go and affirm them in that. Like that feels really, really nice for somebody to tell you that, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like,
that's really cool.
So go and do that, first of all.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling super connected or content in your relationship, I want you to pause and just spend, 5-10 minutes, the rest of this hour on your own, journaling, writing in your notes, doing a voice note to yourself, and just asking yourself why that is. Maybe just thinking about like, what is it that's not necessarily missing, but what do I wish was maybe a little bit different? What would I do differently? Another way to think about this question is, when was the last time, or when was a time I felt really connected and really content in my relationship? And go back to when that was. This isn't to dress it up or to make it some beautiful, perfect memory. Just go back to a time that you felt really connected in your relationship and try to pinpoint what were some of the things that stood out to you about that. And pay attention to those. See if you can come up with a couple of instances if possible. Note what those were. And then be brave. If you're feeling really strong, really brave, and bring those up to your partner and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling right now. I'd really love to talk about this. Can we set aside some time? Because chances are good. This is another side note. Chances are good you're not going to be able to just approach somebody and say, hey, I want to talk to you about how I'm feeling right now. These are all things. Okay.
Right.
But maybe say, hey, could we set aside some time to talk later this week? And set up a time to do that and give them some time so that you have that in place.
Yeah.
And then you can go and share how you're feeling and open up that conversation. But I would encourage you to do that. Starting with, if you're feeling really good, go and tell that person you're feeling really good and that you love them and care about them, because it feels great. And you're going to feel great doing that too.
It's awesome. I love that. Such important and good stuff. And look at that. I'm not even pitting out anymore. I'm not even sweating. That went great. I have some homework. And I just want to encourage everyone that keep in the game. Keep going for it. Keep trying.
It's worth it.
Keep connecting with us and keep on connecting with your safe, healthy partners. Boom. Let's go. What are we doing?
We're cheering for you.
I'm going to
say, look at your glass.
Almost
your glass is gone. That's cool.